Hey, how's it going, everyone? Ilya Skolnikov. Hello. Hey there, good to see you here. Well, all right. First of all, thank you so much for joining this special informational presentation about something that is super urgent. It's relevant to you if you send any kind of email. So essentially, the point of this webinar is that Google and Yahoo are clamping down on email senders. And if you don't have a few components in place, effective February 1st, your email addresses are going to have a far higher likelihood of winding up in spam. And I'm going to share my screen in a moment so you can see all the important sections live. All right, guys, can you see my screen? Give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Okay, everyone, cool. All right, so you ever had a real email from someone you know wind up in spam? This can happen to you too. A few days ago, now this is not the same as that example, but a few days ago, I've been in communication with someone who uses Freshdesk to send emails. I was surprised when I found that the guy's email was not in my inbox. I checked again and again and again, and I even called him on the phone and I said, "Hey man, what's up? Where's your email?" And they said, "I sent it. I sent it to you through Freshdesk personally." I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and check my spam. And sure enough, it's there. Not only is it there, but you see this red box that says this message seems dangerous. Well, it's Google, and I use Google Workspace for my business email, deeming Freshdesk dangerous. More than likely because they are not complying with the simple things that you need to have on your email address. And these are essentially authentication keys. These are special authentication keys. Okay? Now, if you don't have these authentication keys in place, there are some very, very big risks that this could have when you're emailing moving forward. Don't take this lightly. Email deliverability issues damage your sender reputation. You are going to be more vulnerable to phishing and spoofing attacks, not just happening to you, but someone is far more likely to perpetrate fraud and poses you and phish someone for their password, for their money, violate GDPR, can spam, and/or the California Privacy Act, the all-important privacy and spam legislations, lose trust with customers and partners, lose ROI, waste resources, and of course, bad email analytics. Not to worry. Whether you are sending email from Constant Contact, MailChimp, Gmail, Outlook, whatever, every single one of these applications needs to have 3 elements: SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. I'm going to quickly explain to you what each one of these is. Now, just a forewarning, I'm going to make it super simple to understand what each of these is, because most business email providers, they do not seriously tell you. Most business email providers don't tell you, they don't educate you on these things. They do not educate you on these things. Although I've personally had these settings set up for myself for many years before, and I've advised many clients in these pitfalls, and they have already seen the risks, Google and Microsoft and all the others have simply not done enough to educate you on these things. So first things first, SPF, Sender Policy Framework. The first of the three elements is essentially your email address's passport. Think of every email you send as a traveler trying to enter a foreign country. SPF is the passport. It's the way to prove to the recipient's inboxes that your message comes from a trustworthy source, your own email servers. Why is this required? Without an SPF record, the email world is like a country with no border control. Anyone would be able to send messages claiming they're from you. Hence, they can perpetrate spam phishing attacks from your name, allegedly on your behalf. And let's be honest, no one wants to be responsible for that. So here's how it works. When you send an email, the receiving server looks at your SPF record. It's a simple line of text in your domain's DNS settings, which lists all of the email servers authorized to send emails on your behalf. Now, for Google, in my case, for example, this should look like something that says spf.google.com. Now, if the server sending your email is on that list, voila, your email gets a stamp of approval and it's allowed in straight into the recipient's inbox. Major email providers, as you know, are ramping up security. And without a correct SPF record, your emails are going to have a high likelihood they're going to be turned away at the inbox border. They won't reach your customers. They'll either end up in spam or they'll be blocked entirely. Next, the second element of the three elements that you need to send to make sure your emails get inboxed is DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Emails. Remember when mail envelopes had beautiful red wax seals? Don't you miss those old days? DKIM is like the red wax seal on an envelope from the days of old. It identifies the sender as authentic. It indicates to the recipient's inbox that you are the one who actually sent this email. Either that or an application that you authorize to send email on your behalf. And authenticity is everything. Your emails are your brand's messengers. And just like a key would send sealed decrees, your messages must be verified as authentic and untampered. DKIM helps prevent email spoofing. And spoofing is when someone sends emails that looks like they're from you, but are actually from an imposter. This can seriously harm your brand and trust with your customers. The first time I've actually had spoofing happen to me was in 2014. Someone actually hacked into my Gmail account and started preparing a bunch of email messages. I was able to stop the hacker midway, but enough messages were sent out that people would respond. They were scared. They were concerned for me. DKIM is a way to prevent that. Here's a simple yet brilliant way DKIM works. When you send an email, it gets signed with a private key that only your server knows. Think of it as a secret handshake. When the email arrives at its destination, the receiving server checks the secret handshake using a public key that's available inside of your domain settings. If those two keys match, boom, that email is confirmed to be from you and it hasn't been tampered with in transit. DKIM is tamper-proof just like those old wax seals. It preserves your reputation by ensuring your emails are seen as legitimate. It is proof for the receiving email system that, yes, this email actually is who it claims to be from. And yes, you can trust its content. ISPs and mail servers are just like SPF, making this a priority. I work with a realtor, and for the better part of a year, all of his emails to me ended up in spam, with a red question mark at the top left every time I opened them. And he, like me, was using Google. There's one key difference. His DKIM was not configured. His DKIM was not configured. How could you forget that wax seal? That's the trouble with Google and the likes. They don't even tell you to treat it with the same prestige as you would a beautiful, old-fashioned wax seal on an envelope. Number 3, the final element, DMARC. This one is a mouthful. Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. This is your shield. You've got the first 2 elements in place, SPF, the wax seal, DKIM, the SPF, which is a passport, DKIM, which is a wax seal, and now this is the protection policy. It is your email address's first line of defense against fraud and misuse. Your guards, your soldiers, your police officers, whatever you want to call the people who stand on guard, ready to defend you against phishing and spoofing. Without a policy for protection, your email's floodgates are open to invaders, spammers, imposters, ne'er-do-wells, frauds, scammers who can misuse your domain to send harmful emails. DMARC is the security protocol that tells the email kingdom at large what to do if someone tries to breach those gates using your domain. DMARC works together with the last 2 elements, SPF and DKIM, to provide a clear set of instructions, a policy for email receivers. It tells them how to handle emails that fail the first 2 tests, which is SPF and DKIM. Should they reject the email altogether, quarantine it, let it through, but mark it? This policy is determined by you. This ensures that only emails that meet your own specific and strict standards represent your brands. It's not just about setting rules. DKIM is also capable of sending back reports about the emails being checked. It's capable of giving insights into who sends emails from your domain, whether they're legitimate or not. Now, keep in mind that Google does not offer the tools to be able to check DMARC statistics. And if you want insights into that, there are special applications out there that are capable of doing that. And for those who are lucky enough to register for this webinar in advance, I actually had my cybersecurity friend of over 20 years, Darren, check your email addresses. And in a little bit, you are going to get a report of how well your email does in terms of DKIM settings, DMARC settings. That's where the critical part comes. Without DMARC, you are flying blind. You don't get control over how emails from your domain are treated elsewhere. You won't see the threats or abuses happening under your own brand name. As email providers tighten security, the DMARC policy, it's not just a recommendation or a good idea. It is absolutely essential. Without it, your emails could get rejected. Your domain could be abused without you even knowing it. You could get messages sent from behind your back, no alerts whatsoever. People could be scammed thousands of dollars of their money. Now, the fourth element is Beamy. Now, I know I didn't have time to prepare a slide about that, but certain senders are using Beamy, which is essentially like the equivalent of a Twitter or X blue check mark or a Facebook blue check mark, but for email addresses. It's a special kind of brand verification, which guarantees that in certain inboxes, such as Google and Microsoft, your company or your brand's logo will be displayed in that inbox with a blue check mark at the top left, along with the logo. Beyond these 3 elements, which are all essential for small businesses, if you really want to go the route to be able to represent your brand and secure it in an email, Beamy is the thing. And besides, it looks like just like a verified check mark on all the major social media. You gain a level of trust by people seeing your approved logo in their inbox. There's one challenge. If you don't have the rest of the three things, Beanie won't matter. Why? I've actually seen an email that claimed to be from UPS. Now, I get phishing emails all the time from people claiming to be DHL, Walmart, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, all that good stuff. They can be told apart as fakes right away. This email that allegedly was UPS looked very convincing. Not only was the grammar perfect and the layout matched exactly how a UPS email would look like, and the address even said UPS on it, the logo was a UPS logo, and it had the blue check mark, which indicated that they are using BB. So stay vigilant. Beanie is worth doing, but not without the first three elements. Okay? Now, my recommendation moving forward is if you don't have a custom domain email address, it is strongly recommended to set up a custom domain email and set it up at a place like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. Now, if you already have that set up, excellent. That's where the challenges are, though. Like I said earlier, most of these companies don't educate you in all three of these elements, even though they have been essentials for years, and they're only going to become more essential on February the 1st if you don't want them, if you don't want your emails to go to spam or get blocked. Now, this varies by provider, but I'm going to keep it real quick and short. And for those who reached out to me and were kind enough to provide their email addresses and their domains, I will provide the report to you and also the recommended action items. So for the SPF component, it's fairly simple. It's a pretty common format. You can. So I'm going to show you what if for example, you have Google Workspace, I'm going to show you what the one for Google Workspace looks like. This part right in the middle indicates that Google is the one with the passport to send emails on your behalf. Now, keep in mind that you do have the option to authorize other applications inside of here. And this is entirely on a case-by-case basis. If you do have something like MailChimp already in here or some other email sending platform, my recommendation is it is best not to tamper with it unless you know what you're doing. And I'm going to open up the floor to Q&A in a bit. DKIM is a little more complicated. Essentially, you have to be logged into your Microsoft or your Google admin dashboard. And there is a special section where you generate your DKIM key or seal, or so to speak. And there are two ways to do it, 128-bit or 256-bit. Because where all these settings reside are in your domain DNS settings or in your website DNS settings. Depending on how you're configured, this can be either in your domain provider like GoDaddy or Namecheap or on your web hosting. Okay? So the DKIM part, that's a unique key that's generated from inside your admin dashboard. Once you've done, paste it into your domain settings. Exactly as the email provider instructs you to. If the 256-bit one doesn't fit, choose the 128-bit one. DMARC, as a bare minimum, you'll want to have this record. Just remember, this is all one line. Now, the default setting is none. This is what it's recommended for all senders to start out with. It simply indicates what emails fail the SPF and DKIM tests without quarantining them or outright blocking them. Now, once you have had a DMARC reporting app and you've been checking out those statistics for a while, you'll have enough information that you'll know to quarantine emails that fail the tests or even outright reject them. Okay. So in summary, those are the email settings as simple as I could make it. With these in place, you'll be able to navigate Google and Yahoo's new requirements with ease. Right now, I am about to open up the floor to Q&A. So, guys, you got any questions for me? You got any questions about anything we discussed today? Now I'm using StreamYard, so if you don't want to type your question in the chat box, you can join on live and unmute yourself. And if you would like to unmute yourself, you can type that in the chat box, and I can give you the invite link. Anyone? Bueller? Last call. Anyone have any questions for me about email policies? Going once? Going twice? No one wants to unmute? No one wants to ask any questions? Have I answered everyone's questions about email sending? All right. Well, if no questions, I guess that's a wrap. Okay, well, all right, so here's what's going to happen next. Everyone who filled out the form in advance of the webinar, I am going to follow up personally with an email analysis, with the email analysis results and suggested next steps based on their provider. And if you haven't yet reached out to me, I'm going to post an email, or even better yet, give me one moment while I post this link in the chat. events.alexv.com/join. events.alexvee.com/join. Enter all. If you haven't yet provided your details in advance, and I know who you are, please, if you, and especially have any business emails that you want checked up for compliance, please use that link to fill those details in and reach out to me with any questions you may have. And I'll not only will I answer them, but I'll have a chance to check out perform a checkup on your email, and with the help of my IT partner, Darren. All right, guys, good attendance today. Thank you all for joining me on this special emergency live event on the Marketer's Secret Toolbox. Now that you have this information, please, please, please do take action on it before February the 1st in order to make sure your emails show up in inboxes. Until the next live event, thank you so much for attending, and good night, everybody.